So, welcome to week 9 of System Design for Sustainability. I'm just giving it a few minutes to allow more people to join in. It's only just 3. So, we'll start in a few minutes. And the way we'll go about today is I'll first discuss any doubts, any questions from week 7 and week 8 assignments, all the assignments, and any other questions from the last 2 weeks' content. And then we will discuss week 9 content, the course. There are like several things in week 9, so I'll go over it systematically. And any other questions, doubts you have from week 9 content. So we'll begin shortly. So I will start today's class first with the week 8 assignment. And since the solution is now uploaded for week 8 assignment, I will kind of just discuss the solutions so that everybody understands the answers for this particular assignment. So let me share my screen, actually, that might help. Okay. So as I was discussing in the previous class, the SDO toolkit is it's a very versatile toolkit, basically. So, it goes into many parts of the whole system design, the MSDS. So if you see that, that table, which we have been using since the beginning, in which we have discussed the different steps of the MSDS. If you see that carefully, the SDO toolkit actually goes into several of those steps. So, the SDO toolkit is a toolkit which can be used in many different ways at different stages of the design process, right? So the first question in week 8 assignment is, of course, what I'm talking about, the SDO toolkit can be used for. So then there are sorry, there's a list of options. So you can see the first option is creating a satisfaction map. So that is not applicable because satisfaction map is a tool on its own. So it's not a part of the SDO toolkit. It's a separate tool which we use in MSDS, but it's not related to the SDO toolkit. Second, generating sustainability oriented ideas. So if you see in the beginning part itself in the SDO toolkit, there is a portion, there is one section which is dedicated mainly to generation of sustainability oriented ideas. So that is correct. Building polarities between various options. So again, this will not be correct because the polarity tool is a separate tool. It's not a part of the SDO toolkit. So the third option is not correct. Analysis of the sustainability potential of the current situation. So this will apply because if you see in the SDO toolkit, there are, there's one part of the toolkit in which you first analyze situations as they are, and then you see in what all ways you can explore opportunities to identify how you can make it more sustainable, right? What are the ways in which you can achieve a higher level of sustainability in different aspects? There are the 6 metrics in environmental, social criteria. So what are the ways in which you can improve your PSS in the context of sustainability can be achieved through the SDO toolkit. So this analysis is a part of the SDO toolkit. So it's correct. The next option is comparative analysis of sustainability improvement. So this is definitely correct because if you remember the last part of the SDO toolkit is that radar diagram in which you're trying to see how your how your product offering is faring on different on different metrics, and you can actually compare it visually as well as on a scale in the radar diagram, because the radar diagram shows it visually, but it also assigns a certain number or certain value of the level of sustainability achieved on that particular metric for your design. So comparative analysis is definitely true. Analysis of the sustainability of cases of excellence. This is also true because this is what we do if there is some product or some similar kind of a case study which is already sustainable or which already has some sort of a best practice in sustainability, then we do capture that, and we do document that, we do include that in the SDO toolkit. So this option is correct. Description of idea clusters and single ideas. So this is actually not technically, like, it's not really a part of the SDO toolkit. This is just one of the stages of design. In SDO toolkit, you generate ideas, but for the purpose of seeing how you can make those ideas, those components of your design perhaps more sustainable. So you generate ideas for that purpose, but it's not a tool for other steps of the design, which is like clustering ideas and describing them and singling out ideas. It's not meant for that purpose. So that is not a part of the SDO toolkit. So question number 2, the customer market served, not served, and met and unmet needs for them are mapped using the which tool are they mapped using? This is something we discussed in the previous class. So if you remember, it is that that table with on the one side you had the market, and on the other side you had the customer, and we were talking about the market served or not served, and the needs of the consumer or customer, whether they are met or unmet, visible, invisible. So this is that diagram we are talking about. So that diagram is the PSS innovation matrix, because that diagram sort of reveals to us which are the needs which are unmet, which are the markets which are unserved, and it shows us potential areas for innovation and where we can innovate. Okay, question number 3. Which of these tools can be used for outlining a design-oriented sustainability scenario? So this is a more general question, right? We're not talking about any one particular part of the MSDS. We are just generally talking about the overall outlining of the design-oriented sustainability scenario. Just one moment. So it's the reminder for this class. Okay, so if you see polarity diagram, offering diagram, SDO toolkit, PSS innovation matrix, these are the options, right? Now, each of these, polarity diagram, offering diagram, and PSS innovation matrix, except for the SDO toolkit, each of these is actually adding a concrete, it's adding more and more substance, so to say, to your design, right? Where your design is becoming clearer through using these tools. Of course, SDO toolkit also makes your design clearer, but it is more of a comparative and brainstorming type of a tool. That's why it's not included in the accepted answers. So you see the polarity diagram, you can see which ideas are the ones which you want to go with, right, which are fitting your criteria. Offering diagram is again for fleshing out the details of your design. Right? PSS innovation matrix, again, it's helpful in identifying the innovation areas and where you stand in that matrix. So these three actually help you for outlining a design-oriented sustainability scenario. The focus is more on the design aspect, right? Whereas SDO toolkit is orienting your design towards sustainability. It's the other way around. That is why I know it's a bit tricky, it's a bit confusing, but that's the reason why SDO toolkit is not included in the correct answer in question number 3. Question number 4, SDO toolkit helps in setting project-specific sustainability priority for each dimension of sustainability. So this is correct. This is exactly what we have been discussing, that it is helpful in assigning a priority, because as we all know that, not everything can be like, 10 by 10. We cannot achieve like 100% sustainability as such. So considering the feasibility, considering your design context, your consumers, your constraints, you can assign a priority, priority level to each dimension of sustainability. And that is one of the main things which the SDO toolkit does, which no other toolkit does. As far as I remember, I don't think there's any other toolkit which helps you do this. And that's the reason why SDO toolkit is very, very helpful, because you're not sort of just trying to optimize everything. You're not trying to, do it all, right? You decide that, okay, these are the areas which are more relevant or more important for my particular PSS. And then you find ways in which you can orient your design towards those sustainability criteria and priorities. And that is how you move forward from there. So this answer number 4 is true. Question number 5. SDO toolkit focuses on ideation on product level, system level, policies for PSS, service level for PSS. So the SDO toolkit is not for a product per se, actually. It's not for policies or either, because if you see, there's no real options in the toolkit for product or policies. It's mainly for a PSS design, just system level. And we can include services also, because I mean, it includes, you do include product also, but it is not the area of focus. The service part is the area of focus. I think this is discussed in the lecture also. So the answers are system and service level, the PSS. So this finishes our assignment for week 8. Now, coming to this is assignment 1, coming to assignment 2, this is more of a subjective kind of question. So there's not really much I can discuss over here. So, if anybody had any questions, I'm guessing they would have already asked by now, but since you haven't, so I'm guessing there aren't too many questions. But this paper given for reference is like a really good paper for getting an idea of how you can go about this assignment. So, if you have not finished this part, or if you were not very, you're not very confident of doing this part of the assignment, I would recommend that you read this paper. This paper is the paper, if you see, it's there in assignment 2. J. Lee and H. A. Cow, Dominant Innovation Design for Smart Product Service Systems, Strategies and Case Studies. So this paper, it's available for free, actually. So you can just Google this title and the author name. You should be able to get the paper. So this paper actually has some really nice case studies, and time permitting, I will go over them. If I feel like we have some time remaining, I will go over some of these case studies. But as of now, I will move forward. Do download this paper and do go over it. So the question itself is taking the context of any handloom industry, draw a satisfaction system mapping and PSS innovation matrix. So You can pick up whichever industry you are most familiar with. So, like if you're from a state where a particular type of handloom industry is more popular or more common, if you had some opportunity to know a little bit more about some particular industry, then you should pick up that. Otherwise, you can see whichever industry you like the best and you can go ahead with that. So, this is week 8, assignment 2, and assignment 3 is optional. So this is sort of a continuation of the previous assignment from week 6 and 7, where I think you had to submit a report and we had to use 3 of those tools, MSDS tools. And it's the same question continued. So in this week's question, they've detailed out the case study sort of further, and just says follow the steps of MSDS discussed in this lecture and submit a report. So what it means is that, in week 8, we discussed, I think, exploring opportunities and concept design. So that same case study which you had submitted in week 6 and 7, continuing with that same case study, you can use the new tools which were discussed in exploring opportunities and concept design and submit the report for that. So again, this is a subjective question, so there's not much for me to discuss in this. If there were a question, I would have answered. You can just check if there's any question. So I don't think there is any question from week 8. Some people have submitted questions about week 6 and 7, but there's nothing on week 8 or something. So okay, so that is week 8. Moving to week 9. So week 9, the quiz I can't discuss right now because the submission due date is still a few days away. So people are still working on this. So I can't discuss the quiz and assignments, but I will discuss uh, some of the course material from week 9. Okay, so close this. So coming to week 9, there are like several new tools which are introduced in week 9, and we also move forward with design system concepts to detailed design to communication of the design. So we are just picking up threads from system concept design, and the process is to cluster and single ideas to develop the system concepts and to do an environmental, socio-ethical, economic assessment. Now, in this particular, let me share my screen. So, in this particular, okay, so in this particular, sorry, yeah, so we're still on system concept design. Sure. Right. So we have discussed some of the tools already, like the polarities diagram, system map, offering diagram. We have already discussed in the previous week's interaction storyboard, animatic, SDO toolkit. All these tools we've already discussed in the previous weeks. So I won't repeat that unless somebody has some specific question regarding these tools. I'm skipping it for now. Any questions on these tools which have been mentioned? Yes, not. Okay. So the new tools which we have in this particular week are, the firstly is the portfolio diagram. Then you have the go no go evaluation criteria, and then as we move forward, there are some other tools which I will come to. So this is a portfolio diagram of sustainability and feasibility. Right. Right. So this is the portfolio diagram. This is actually not very complicated, but I will explain it because it's actually very much like the polarity diagram. So don't get confused with the polarity diagram, but it is it follows the same kind of principle and same kind of a methodology. So just give me a moment. I will log in from the other. Just let me log in from my pad. Continue. Okay. So any question so far?
No, no, madam. No, madam. Go ahead. Go ahead as per your plan.
Okay. All right. So let me just take a few steps back. So this is like, the step one. I think there's something missing in the slides because there is one more step here, which is missing in this particular slide from the lecture. But it's there in the video. If you see the lecture video, it's there, but somehow it's missing in this lecture. Anyway, so the first thing is you try to see where your design concept is actually fitting. First is like, if a small change is necessary and no new technology is necessary, that's like a short-term solution. If there is only some change necessary, like medium change necessary, and you do require new technology, but not like a completely new technology, like some innovation is needed, that's a medium-term solution. And there's a very big change necessary, and you require a completely new tech for enabling that solution, then that's a long-term solution. So I mean, it seems like we have bundled together three types of ideas in one, but if you think about it, it actually makes sense. If there's not a huge change, not making much change in a design, if you're not changing the tech much, you're not changing anything much, then you're actually not doing a whole lot of innovation or improvement in the design in the first place. So it will continue the way it has been continuing. So it's going to be a short-term solution. Then if you, for example, like, there's a medium change necessary and there's some new tech. So for example, like, you have corridor lighting in a, say a guest house, in a hostel somewhere. If you want to convert all the corridor lighting to different power source, like you want to convert at least some of it to solar powered lights, then the technology is existing. We just need to figure out a way to implement it, right? So you need to identify, say, how much of the lighting should be solar powered. So you're just going to do some changes in the wiring, and just you're going to put some solar panels somewhere, and that's a medium term solution, because there's not like enough innovation you've done. You've just implemented some different technology. There's a big change necessary, means you're completely overhauling the whole system. You're completely overhauling the way people are doing things on its own. Like you want to put an intelligent lighting system, for example. So that has to be customized to that particular space, right? Like if you want an intelligent lighting system which kind of turns on and off on its own, it detects whether a person is there, is able to differentiate between a human and a dog, for example. So, that kind of a thing, it will require new code to be written. You will have to write new code for the AI and the IoT and all of that. So that's a completely new technology. So it's a major change. It's not the same thing as just changing a light bulb, right? So that kind of a change is a big change, and it's going to be a long-term solution because, of course, the kind of sustainability you can achieve through that kind of lighting will be very different. Firstly, you are reducing the dependence on power a lot, and secondly, like, you will be saving so much of not just money, but also consumption of energy with intelligent lighting. And thirdly, like, it's long term by design, right? It's designed to be long term. So, for example, like if you've implemented, if the lights originally were something which needs to be changed every 1 year, 2 year. Now maybe because the lighting is going to be used lesser, so its life will automatically increase. And also you can, because you're anyways putting in new technology, so now you can also maybe improve the life of those lighting systems. So you design them to be lasting for 5 years, 10 years, something like that, right? So then, of course, I mean, you can integrate solar, whatever. I'm just thinking out of the top of my head, but I'm just giving an example of, what is the difference between medium and big change, because this could be a bit confusing. So this is the basic, portfolio diagram comparison of sustainability and feasibility. And there is another slide, there's another step here of so it's supposed to be in the previous slide also, but it's not there somehow. But what she's talking about is this thing only, sustainability potential versus how feasible it is and how easy or difficult it is to implement it. So let me just create this, stop sharing this. Okay. So let's just create this matrix again from the beginning, so we can kind of think about it a bit better instead of just talking about the diagram. So what we're talking about is the portfolio diagram, and what we are doing now is creating the whole portfolio diagram from the beginning, so we understand it a bit better, and we know, how you can go about using a portfolio diagram of this type. So the arrow is pointing towards the increasing side, right? So I've put the arrow up and on the right hand side because it increases up and it increases on the right. Yeah. So we are talking on the top about sustainability, and on the right, on the x-axis, we're talking about the feasibility, or you can say implementation. By implementation, I mean how easy or difficult it is to achieve it. So for context. Let's write this as high, this is low. When I'm talking, let's actually this implementation might create confusion because this we say high and low, then implementation doesn't mean anything in terms of high and low. Feasibility can be low or high. So when we say feasibility, we kind of automatically mean implementation. So I think that should be fine. So this is the basic, the basic diagram. Nothing very complicated. The main things to remember is that it's like an x-axis, y-axis diagram where on the y-axis you have sustainability and on the x-axis you have feasibility. What we're trying to do, this remember we are at the design concept stage. Right? We are using this for what? We're using it for the purpose of understanding the we're trying to understand how we can cluster ideas and how we can single out ideas and see which ones we want to go ahead with or which ones we want to club together. So when we are ideating, when we're coming up with ideas for improving the sustainability of a PSS, we want to start, clubbing ideas together. So there will be one idea of, how you can make some component better, another idea of how you can make some other component better. At this stage, we're trying to bring these ideas together and see which ones can work together and be implemented in the PSS, which ones can't be implemented in a PSS, or which ones can be implemented but with some modification, things like that. So this is the stage at which we are using this diagram. So now in this, again, this whole process can be done on paper or, on a whiteboard, or you can do it on something like what we are doing now, like some online digital tool. Now, this is like the basic board. Now, what you have is right now, separate from this, you have like a whole cluster of ideas, right? These are all the ideas you have come up with for making your design sustainable. So I am just using these blue and other colored boxes. These are, I'm sort of trying to give it like the look of, say, a post-it note or something. But you could actually be using some other things also. It doesn't have to be just this. You can use like images, or you can use like text notes, even URLs. So for example, like many people use very, very different tools for capturing, their design ideas. Like you can use a reference image, you can use a reference link, you can use some other text blurb or something, or a sketch. You could be using your own sketches. So your ideas are in all, different formats. I'm just putting these post-its here as symbolic of ideas, but could be in any format. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So what you start doing is you start evaluating each of these ideas. So say suppose this is idea 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? Now, this is your pool of ideas. Uh, so you can add one more, two, or whatever you like. Now we start putting these ideas on this board. So let's take two. Uh, I'll just make a new one. So say suppose this is idea 1, and this is kind of feasible, but it's not that sustainable. So I put it here, right? Because on the feasibility axis, it's very high. It's very easy to implement. It doesn't cost me too much. Maybe it doesn't use too many resources, perhaps. So the feasibility is high, but the sustainability is low. Like, it's not. It's not unsustainable. So that's why it's above the axis. So you see, this is use this. So this is the axis, right? This, if it's above this axis, it is sustainable. This whole region above this axis is sustainable. And similarly, on the feasibility axis, if it's on the right of this axis, it is sustainable. Sorry, it is feasible. If it is on the left, this is not feasible. So just as a thought exercise, let me just mark all the areas are what. So this left quadrant here, this is what? Is it sustainable? Yes. Sustainable, yes. And feasible? No. Right? On the right of the y-axis is feasible. This is sustainable, yes. Feasible, yes. And in this quadrant, is it sustainable? No. Is it feasible? Yes. This quadrant, is it sustainable? No. Is it feasible? No. So we are going to stay away from the bottom left quadrant, because why will you want an idea which is neither sustainable nor feasible? So this is just to explain how you put the ideas into each of the quadrants. Now say suppose you have this idea one. So you have this idea one, and it is highly sustainable, sorry, highly feasible, but not very sustainable. Then we have, say, another idea. Man, yes, say suppose this is your idea two. It's very sustainable, but it's really like borderline. It's not that easy to implement, right? So you put it where? Put it very high because sustainability is high, but feasibility is low. So it's almost near the y-axis. Okay? Then maybe you came up in your brainstorming process, maybe you came up with some idea which is like, it's a good idea. But once you really start thinking about how to implement it, you find that it's not feasible. You start discussing the idea, you start thinking about the technology or about maybe your users or whatever, and you find out that this is not actually feasible, right? Then you put it in this quadrant because the feasibility is very, very low, right? And sustainability is high, but feasibility is very, very low. So obviously, this is not something we want. So more or less, broadly, especially in this particular diagram, what we will want will be something which is in this quadrant. We will want to look out for ideas which are in this quadrant from design and implementation perspective. This is the best quadrant, let's just call it that. The other quadrant, so this is not like we don't have sort of like a meter reading or a calculated value for sustainability or feasibility. So this X and Y axis are more, indicative. It's a qualitative analysis. It's not a quantitative analysis. So we can't say for sure that, okay, this is exactly here or exactly there. But this is a scale. It's a scale of measurement of how, relatively speaking, on a relative scale, how good or how bad something is, say, on sustainability criteria versus feasibility criteria. So, I mean, I'm just saying that because I put this sustainability as feasibility. No, I've put it in a very sort of black and white way. It's not when you start doing this thing in real life and you start putting ideas into this box. It will not be yes or no kind of a thing. Sometimes it will be, but it may not always be like a plain yes no type of solution. But you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. That if something is really not adding any sustainable value, and it's very feasible to implement, then it will come into the bottom right box. Basically, let's put one there also for understanding purpose. So say suppose this is some idea which is very feasible, but it's not like really very sustainable. It's not adding much value in terms of sustainability. So now this box is not entirely useless, by the way. So, you may want to just implement some idea which may not have anything to do with sustainability. It's not that it's not sustainable, it's just that it's not really adding much value to your sustainability, uh, requirements. But it may still be a good design idea, right? So some of these ideas could actually go into this, but from a sustainability perspective, it's not the most desirable quadrant. So I'm just shading this in a different color, but I think you understand. So these ideas, broadly speaking, are what you can pick. So some idea may not be adding value from a sustainability point of view, but it may be improving some other component of design. So you can still use it, but you have to still put it in the right box. You can't put it in the top right hand box just because you like the idea. So as you can see, this is like a very nice tool for understanding exactly how easy or difficult um, this is, right? You don't exactly have to kind of think too much um, in subjectives, and in trying to think about which idea to take, which idea to not take, and all that. This diagram and this tool sort of makes it very simple. That okay, these are the good ideas, these are the ones which are easy, which can add sustainability, and you can, of course, you'll have other criteria, budget, this, that. So you want to put your money, your resources, your people on ideas which, like, check the two boxes. So that's kind of this diagram. So is that clear? Is this clear? Or any questions? Okay, so portfolio diagram is really not that complicated. Let me stop the. Okay, so coming back to um, so just by the way, a lot of the links are not working in the slides. So there are some links in the slides for where you can download the tool and stuff. They're not working, and I think they may have been uploaded at some point of time, but these tools by themselves are not available on that site right now. At least I couldn't find them. But they're not that complicated, so we can still make do with just the diagram thing. Okay, so moving forward, the next is the go no go evaluation. I'll just share this. So this is where we were in the chat. Yes, there are errors on the pages. So actually these slides are old. I think this course was sort of created in 2018 or 19 or something. So at that time, perhaps these links were working, but now I think they have sort of, you know, that site has been removed and things like that. So the next we come to the go or no go evaluation criteria, which is not, again, it's not a very complicated thing. So if you just look at this table in the slide, all we are doing is that, you take your idea, or say suppose you want to classify your idea, then um, yeah. So let me. So there's an echo because I'm not able to mute the sound on my iPad, and I have to log in from my iPad for sharing the doodling thing. Let me do something about this. Just give me a moment. Is the echo really bad?
It's there, ma'am. I can hear everything twice. Even the recording of the YouTube.
I'm sorry. It's just I don't really have a way to turn off
Ma'am,
this.
in the Zoom link of the second account, you can just there is a third option. In that, mute is there.
No, it is muted, but Zoom is muted only, but the speaker is not at zero. Everything is muted. Sound you're hearing is the sound of me talking in that Zoom because it's through a different account.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Okay. Just try it. See, the problem with iPad is that it doesn't reduce the volume beyond a certain point. I'm not able to. Okay. It doesn't allow me to. That's the problem. I don't know why iPad is like this. In all other things, I can mute it. See, I'm not able to mute the iPad. It's not the Zoom which is the problem. It's the iPad which is not muting. Does anybody know how to mute the iPad? It's something I have also struggled with because I am also hearing the echoes. So it's actually a problem for me also, but I don't know how else to. Okay, let me. The thing is, I still have to do that. So. Just give me a moment. I'm trying to figure out something. Okay, this I don't think is going to work, but let's keep moving forward. There. I might be able to do it if I log in from the same account, but the problem is that I wasn't being able to log in from the same. Just give me a moment. I really do want to solve this problem. Okay. Um, So let us continue from the next, the two. So let me just share my screen. Right. So we were, discussing the portfolio diagram and, how you can use the portfolio diagram to evaluate the feasibility and sustainability of any idea or any cluster of ideas. So let's go to the next, next tool, which is the go and the no-go evaluation criteria. So this is the next way of sort of evaluating. Like, say, suppose you have like a whole lot of ideas, like you have worked on several concepts, several ideas, and you're not entirely sure of which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to discard. So for that particular purpose, we use the go no go evaluation. So um, let me just share my screen from the other system. So this is a rough diagram I have made of the go no go evaluation. Now let me just erase these values first and explain it from the beginning. So what we're trying to do is, on the left hand side, in this whole column, we have clubbed together our ideas. So, like we did a whole lot of brainstorming, we came up with some ideas, we clustered some ideas we have kept as single ideas. So all these ideas, you can add idea 2. When I say cluster, I mean cluster of ideas which we have clubbed together as one concept. Right? So you can take several ideas and club it together as one concept. And then, these are the features. So say, suppose these are the features, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, feature 4, and can have any number of features. And also it's not necessary that every idea or every cluster of ideas will have the same number of features. Right? So what we are trying to achieve here is that we're trying to capture all the different aspects of some idea or cluster of ideas, and we're trying to see how each of these compares on certain features we want to achieve in the S.PSS. So features, this is features in the S.PSS, right? So these are some of the features. I've taken only 4, but you can take any number of features. And on all of these features, we are going to give a rating or a scorecard to each of these ideas or cluster of ideas. And the kind of scorecard we'll give, this is just the, it's sort of like a rating criteria, sort of like a rating, right? So if you take the current status of, if you take the current status as the, just give me. So if you only take the current status as 0, let's assume that status quo or the way things are right now is 0, then if some idea is improving on that current status, we give it a plus rating. So here I give it a +1. Say, suppose it is improving on this particular feature a lot. This is a +1. Maybe this is a +2. And maybe on some feature, some other feature, it is actually worsening that thing. So it's possible that, you're improving one part of the design, but you may be worsening some other part of the design. And in a very complex design, like an S.PSS type of design, they are by nature complex. it's very much possible, and it happens all the time, that you made one part of the problem more sustainable, but it has become less sustainable, say on some other aspect, right? You change the material, so you achieved some sort of sustainability by reducing toxicity of material, but unfortunately it may be coupled with an increase in energy consumption or something. So I'm just giving an example, but this is kind of like the thing which happens all the time in S.PSS design. And in some other it may be -2. So similarly, say this is -1, and on this maybe this is 0, and on this is +1, and say +2. So you do this kind of a rating for each idea or cluster of ideas on every feature. And because we may have like 15, 20, 100, any number of features and any number of ideas, it's not um, it's not exactly easy, or it's not exactly that obvious that which idea is the better one, or which idea is better in in what way. So what we do is, in the end, you take a summation of these, right? So in this, the total score is 0, right? +1, +2, -1, -2, the total score is 0. In the next one, the total score is 2. So similarly, you go on and you fill out the total score, and then when you have the total score, you have like a very good metric to at least decide which idea is good overall. So so I suppose in some idea you may be you may be getting like a +3 here, right? It is doing very good on some feature, the rest are maybe 0. So you still get a 3 here, right? Overall, it is still doing much better than the idea which has +1, +2, and -1, -2, and eventual net is 0, right? So the whole idea behind this exercise is to know which idea is actually doing the best, or which ideas are doing way better overall on the big picture evaluation. So this is how you use the go no go tool, because you can say at least some ideas should have more than 0, right? Positive rating. So if it is 0, you discard it. If it is -1, -2, whatever, total score. So the total score is the basis for which we are trying to do this whole exercise. So this total score is the criteria basis which you decide whether it is a go or a no go. So if the total score is more than 0, perhaps in certain design, we decide that we want to go ahead with it. So if, say, some design concept has, say, you do very well +2, but there's also a -2 and a +1 and a -1, or say this is -2 again. So the net is -1. So then we will not take this, right? +3 and +2 we will take. So this is how we use a go or a no-go criteria. Go no-go criteria for deciding whether an idea is a go. So this is a go, this is a go, and this is a no-go. So this is just a sort of like, to put things in like black and white. That's all. Okay, so let's move on to the next feature. Let me stop my screen. Oh no, it wasn't recording till now. That is really sad because I spent like a long time.
I
Okay,
thought you
fine.
had the recording on. I saw you. It was on the top.
Yeah, but when I switched to the iPad, did it say recording is on?
Instead, it was recording on the iPad. It was not Zoom recording.
Okay, I don't know what happens now. I will see in the end only once I end the meeting, but I don't want to end the meeting right now. It's just over. I started the recording now anyway. So
Yes.
whatever part I have missed in between, if there is a gap in the recording, I will just re-record that part and I will add it to the video. Okay.
Yes.
So otherwise, I mean, it's not going to be the full recording. So I don't think it was a very lengthy part. I think it was a small portion, only 15, 20 minutes, which can get recorded. So, okay, so after this class, I will just go and see the videos. And if that part is missing, if it's not recorded, I will re-record that part and I'll add it. Okay, so coming to the motivation matrix. Um, Now it's recording to the cloud, actually. So. Okay, all right. Let's go to the matrix. Let's do this. Okay, so we were discussing this go no go evaluation. Back to let's go back. Where were we? Motivation matrix. Right. So the stakeholder motivation matrix is again, it's not very complicated. So it's not something very difficult. It's just okay. So let's say this is like you know the matrix. I'm just building it out. I won't do the whole thing because that's going to take too much time, but just to give you an idea of what goes in this whole thing. So you can do this in Excel also, actually. You don't have to use a diagramming tool or something. If you're like more comfortable with something like Excel, then this whole matrix can just be in Excel. Especially since it's more like a table stuff. So, and so on and so forth. Now I'm just breaking down one of these into different parts, but you can assume that it's there in all of them. Right. So now this has to be just here. Okay, so this is actor A, actor B, actor C. Now again, you have A, B, C. You can have more, but I'm not filling out the rest of it. So if you have ever created any sort of a payoff matrix in game theory, this will look very familiar because this is similar to the kind of matrix we create in game theory. Anyway, So what we do is, like, you put the same actors on the column side and the same actors on the row side. So if you can see, uh, like if you can see my diagram, we have put the same ABC in the left column and then ABC on the top. What we're trying to do is, so this is, my pen is also dying out. So this is just A with A, this is not like interaction, but the rest, actor B and A and B and C, they are all different actors. So there are four things we see in every interaction. First is the motivation. Okay, I think my pen is dying out. Oops. So yeah, sorry. This is unexpected, but my pen battery is suddenly dying. What had charged it. Okay, I will have to share this later because the screen is not going to help right now. Right. So, what do I do? This is quite pointless. I logged into the iPad just so I could sketch, but now my pen is not working. Anyway, I'm just going to share the slides then because this is still at least better than nothing. So, okay, let's just go with the slides for now. If you see in this, you can see in the right hand part, there are like four sections of four criteria to each interaction. The motivation, the contribution made, the contribution received, the synergy or conflict. So this is a interesting one because not all players in your like in your whole PSS may be all happy to collaborate and work together, right? That's the main reason why we have this category in the first place. So first part, what is the motivation for this stakeholder? So now, who are these ABC which I had put down, or actor 1, 2, 3, 4? They are all the different stakeholders in your design. So say suppose one person is the person who's going to be, working on creating building the product, and one other person is involved in something else, some other part of the PSS, like, servicing or um, some such thing. Then there is somebody else who's involved in something else. So, those type of things are all different actors. We're calling them actors, but they're all eventually involved in the whole design and delivery of the PSS. So now the motivations of the actors are very important in this, mainly because sometimes your design may just be in conflict with the motivation of the actors themselves. Like, for example, like you're designing something for a farmer, say suppose, and there is actually a product like this which had come up. So there was a product in which they had come up with a tool, like, and it, sort of like a device, which helped farmers in picking cotton. Right. So now they created a very nice device which would work in all types of weather, and they innovated and everything. And they went and talked to the farmers and spent time with the farmers and saw if it is working with the cotton in different types of weather conditions and everything. And they did all that, and they came up with a very good device. But the problem they faced in the end was that, they had not considered some of the stakeholders in their design. So the device they were designing was for the farmer, but it was not being able to supplement the income of the farmer. It was actually supplementing the income of the cotton companies. I don't know the exact business model of that particular industry, but the way it worked was that the farmer was okay with, it was okay. It was easier for the farmer perhaps to pick cotton and collect it and bind it and send it off. But it was not really improving the income of the farmer much, right? So for a farmer, the biggest thing for a farmer is that
his income should be increasing with your device or with your innovation, but his income was not increasing. But on the other hand, some because maybe the way the farmer was paid was on a different daily basis, not on a volume basis or something. It may have been something else. I don't know the exact details, but this was an actual product, and I want to actually find out the details of it. It's not there on their website. And that product failed only because the revenue share based on the usage of the product was not in the right way. So the farmer was not benefiting from it at all. Bigger companies and other middlemen were the ones who were actually benefiting from it. So you see, the motivation of the stakeholders in any design is very, very important for the market success of the idea. So when you are coming up with different concepts, you still do have to think about, am I really aligned? Is this product PSS really aligned with the motivations of the different actors? Because different actors have different motivations. So the purpose of the farmer will be to increase his revenue. The purpose of the person who's building the design, or who's, say, suppose, manufacturing some part of your PSS, his perspective will be to maximize his revenue. The the similarly, the interest of the distributor would be to maximize his revenue. And it may not always be revenue, it could also be something else. Like, sometimes you may want to reduce the transport time. Sometimes you may want to reduce the consumption of some fuel, or reduce expenditure on something unnecessary. So all these are, like, I'm just again thinking out of the top of my head, but these are all very important considerations which people have. So it is important to know what is each person's motivation for taking part in this whole system. Because we're not designing one product. That whole cotton picker was only one product, but it was still fitting into an entire ecosystem which was already existing. It was still not a system. But here what we are doing is we are actually designing a system already. And it is going to be a part of the existing system. So what are the motivations of each actor in taking part of the system is very important. So when we say actor versus actor, it is really, what we're trying to say is really, what is this person's motivation? This part is just, this person's individual motivation for wanting to be a part of the system. Now, when we come to something like, actor one versus actor two. So in this portion, here, what you will write is the motivation of actor one versus actor two. So the way you read this diagram is, you read it from the left, like the column to the row, from the column to the row, right? Like this. So my arrows are a bit crude. Tool is not very good on laptop. But what I'm trying to say is that, say, suppose when you're talking about contribution made, moving on to the second point, the contribution made in the partnership. Now, see actor one versus actor two. Actor one versus actor two, when here we're talking about 1, 2, 2. Contribution made is from 1 to 2. From the left column to the top thing. You understood what I'm trying to say? Is it making sense?
For example, if we take actor one, how is the actor one helping actor two? Is it like that?
Yes, contribution made, meaning how is actor one contributing to actor two in this whole system? Okay, because I'm talking about the second point right now, the contribution made to the partnership in general. So say, suppose actor one and actor two are interacting somewhere in the whole PSS. So when I'm talking about this box in which I was writing, so in this box, you're going to talk about the contribution made by actor one to actor two here, right? Then we come to contribution received in the third part, in the third cell here. Then you're talking received by one from two. just read this like this: the contribution received from, instead of the partnership, contribution received from the left column to the right row. Let me see if I can try to write. That's why I wanted to annotate it on the diagram rather than.
Yes, understanding, ma'am.
Yeah, so contribution made. Right? Okay. Mm. Then now let's come to this. This is an important part. That's why I'm just taking a little bit of time with this. The way you read it, let me just make those arrows. The way you read it is from here to here. Okay, that's how you read the table. So from in this particular cell, it is going to be contribution made from A to B and contribution received by A from B. Okay, and the last part is conflict or synergy. So in this last part, you can say if A has any issues with B, A is conflict with B, or is, synergy with B. Okay. When you're talking about this particular box, it's the other way around. So when you're talking about this box, then it's the other way around. Then you can, of course, talk about motivation, but when you're talking about contribution made here by B to A, received, contribution received, A to B, let's just do A to B, otherwise it's going to see. Yeah. Contribution received by B from A. And here we'll talk about B's conflict with A, or B's synergy with A. Okay, so I've written it in a very crude way, but I think this is sort of a little bit clearer in the sense that how you have to read the table and how you have to fill it. So is this clear now? Is it making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So just remember, this arrow is the important one, the blue arrow which I've made. This arrow is what you have to remember, that you read the table and you fill the table from the column to the row. So you put the column first and the row next. So when you're saying contribution made by the actor in the column to the actor in the row. Okay. Or I mean, sorry, when I say column, I mean column, the entry column, actor B is in the column. I mean, column like that. You can just say left to right. Otherwise, that's also maybe an easier way to remember. Okay. So this is the, what do you call it? The motivation matrix.
The video talked about the importance of it diagonally, like A to A, B to B.
Importance of the what?
like diagonally understanding the boxes. A to A, B to B, C to C. Why was that very important comparatively?
So in that, like, you need to understand this is basically A to A and B to B is not like an interaction per se, but it is the person's own motivation or the own contribution they're making or the own contribution they may be receiving from the system itself, not a part of the interaction with other actors. Because A to A is not an interaction of A with anybody, right?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Yeah. So it is when you're talking about A to A and B to B, that box is basically just that person's own soul, own motivation or own understanding. I don't know whichever way you want to put it, but it is not like vis-a-vis some other actor. So for the other actors, this sequence is to be observed so that you're not confusing between the two boxes. This was the main thing I wanted to highlight, that A to B, when you're doing this box, when you're doing this box it's different, and when you're doing this box it's different. They are two different boxes. You can't fill the same thing in the both, is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the motivation matrix. Next, we have the solution element brief. This is also again not a very difficult thing. Okay, let's do the solution. Okay. This is also like very similar to what we just did. It's not very complicated. Okay, so this is, I suppose, your matrix. I'm not putting too many actors because otherwise just run out of space to write and it becomes all hodgepodge. So I'm just putting 2, 3 actors. Okay, so this is your basic thing. Now your PSS can have many different parts, right? It's not that it's just one product and one service and that's it. It'll have many, many different components, and it can have, any number of components. It's not even like it has to be 5 or 6. We are just doing this for diagramming purpose, but it can have like 100 components. Think of something to do with automobiles or something to do with, more complex systems. You can think about how complex they are. So, it's not going to be 2 or 3 boxes. It's going to be like in hundreds. But again, you can do these type of things which are more table based in Excel instead of, you know, wasting time, something like a diagramming tool. So again, actor, actually I prefer ABC instead of A. So say this is actor A. And you have, one is the product. You have service 1, service 2, and something else, right? Say suppose, let's say training. I'm not taking too many of these because it's just, the idea is the same. Now, what we are trying to say is that, you try to indicate which person is involved in which part of it. Right now, if you see in this, like, what is happening is you have all these actors, A, B, C, and you have all these The product is only one part of it. Then there are a whole lot of services. There's a whole lot of other implementation. There's a whole lot of training, distribution, marketing. There can be like 100 things involved in your whole PSS installation, the servicing, the maintenance, the repairs. Then there can be like any number of things. I've just clubbed them all as like service one, service two generic names. Now we want to know which person is involved in design of that and which person is involved in delivery of that. And some people may not be involved in any of that. So we want to see which one is involved in what. Now we are using a legend for this. Like below it. The legend is that there's either a cross or there is a square or both. So something like this, we can actually improve upon this. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have a cross, and yeah, you'll have to do with my basic drawing only. They don't have a cross, but they do have a box. Let's use the box. And I'm coloring the box so that it's easier visually, but you don't necessarily have. So this is the legend. So there's cross, a box, and a box and a cross. So suspect. Yeah, so this is the legend. And you can see that, all the details are actually given. The cross is basically person is contributing to design. Square is where the person will deliver. And square and cross is design plus deliver. So you can, this is not something very complicated once again. So you can see that in all of these, which person is doing what, right? Even in Excel, you can, if you are not able to use this cross and box thing in Excel, you can come up with some other symbol in Excel, which is more easy for you to implement. Plus sign you can, I think, anyways, but box maybe you can't put, you can put something else like underline the box or something like that. So on Excel, you can do this very easily if you just change the symbols a little bit. So say suppose actor A is sort of, involved in design. So you put a plus here. Actor B is involved in delivery. So of this particular service, so you put a box here, but the actor B may be involved in the delivery and in design of some other service. So you put a cross and a box here, and so on and so forth. Somebody is involved. Oops. Somebody is involved in just delivery, they put a box here. Somebody's involved in just design, you put a cross here. That's it. I mean, I can keep making more crosses and boxes everywhere, but I think you get the idea of what we are exactly doing and why we are doing it, right? We are not doing it as just some game. We want to understand who all are involved in what, because after you have, say, suppose understood the whole motivations, contributions, conflicts, blah, 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 you want to know who is doing what in this whole design and delivery part of the system. See, earlier we had done something like an AEIOU mapping. That was to understand your customer and the actors involved along with the customer and the user. It was more on the user side. Right now we are on the design side of things. So we are trying to do a similar thing with the design side of things. And in the design, what we are trying to do is understand who is going to design, who is going to deliver, and who is going to be a part of the design and delivery process both. In AEIOU type of mapping, what you are doing is you are trying to see who all are the users who can potentially, affect our understanding of the design or affect the way the machine is used or something like that. That was from the user POV. Right now, it is from the designer's POV, right? So this is your, what do you call this thing? This is solution element B. The name is not very self-explanatory, so you will have to make sure you remember the name, because I don't find the name very self-explanatory, but fine, it is what it is. It's the name at all. So I have put all the handouts and these class notes from week 8 in the folder already. I hope you are able to see it. I forgot to upload it last week as I uploaded it today. And these ones, I'm just going to export them and upload them right now itself, actually, otherwise I'll forget. So, let's go.
Can we discuss
Sorry?
questions like in the first week and all? We discussed the questions on how to answer the questions. Last week only 5 questions are there. Can we discuss today?
I already discussed actually in the beginning.
Then I'll see the YouTube video.
Yeah, so in the first half hour of the whole lecture today is just discussion of week 8 assignments. So you can just check that out on YouTube once I have uploaded the video. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Assignment 1 only we discussed, no?
Sorry.
Last week assignment 1 is already discussed.
Yes.
Okay.
I discussed all the assignments, but the subjective part, there is not much to discuss. So I left it. I mean, I just discussed a little bit. If you have any specific questions in assignment 2 and 3 from last week, you can tell me now. I can.
No. Only assignment 1 I thought we'll discuss.
Yeah,
No,
there were
I-
only 5 questions anyway. So, yeah. Why am I wearing this? Okay. So this covers the different tools for our MSDS. I don't think there are any other tools in the communication part. All these, diagrams which you have made, basically you just put those in the communication, and you can put in a mini doc or something for any surveys or interviews you have conducted, perhaps. So this is kind of, it completes the MSDS part of system design. The rest of the things we discussed, I mean, she discussed the LCA part for, for a S.PSS, and S.PSS is not that easy to do an LCA for. And we can go into the details if you want, but I think it's fairly, after studying S.PSS, it will automatically be kind of obvious to you that, LCA is very rigorous process, and in an S.PSS type of a design, like it's not so easy to identify a functional unit, for example, because we are not using something like a functional unit in S.PSS in the first place, because you don't have like a product. You work with something like a satisfaction unit. So a satisfaction unit is the unit of fulfillment, or the result we want at the end of a sustainable product system, service system design. So, and a satisfaction unit can be literally anything. You want your clothes washed. That's your satisfaction unit. How you get the clothes washed or whatever, whether it's a product, a service, combination of product, service, you're indifferent to that. So for that reason, defining a functional unit itself, like what will you do? 1 kg of clothes washed, it's difficult, right? So starting with the very initial part of LCA, where you're defining the functional unit and you're defining the system boundary, that itself becomes kind of challenging. And in the system boundary also, you can define a system boundary like, the way we do it normally. But the bigger challenge is that an S.PSS is not the sum of its parts. That's the whole philosophy behind a system design and an S.PSS design, that it's not just the sum of its parts. Like, there are so many interactions, there are so many synergies which we try to capture, and there are so many different types of flows, energy flows, communication, information flows, material flows, uh, other kinds of resources, kind of, you can think of that also as a flow. So all of those are also very much a part of S.PSS. And it is not so easy to kind of quantify the impact of those different flows, right? So what we have been doing till now, like in the SDO toolkit, or in some of the other toolkits, we are trying to sort of understand and assess our designs on a sustainability matrix or different kinds of criteria, coming up with ways to understand how we can improve it. But what we are still not able to do in all of these tools and all of these methods is quantifying that. So LCA is a place where you're not working with, ordinal numbers. You're working with cardinal numbers. So, like, the difference between ordinal numbers and cardinal numbers? It's like just set theory and maths, actually. So, do you know? I don't see any reply. Okay. So, not
Ordinal
reply.
is like 5 types, good to bad kind of thing.
Something like that, yes. So in ordinal numbers, it's like, if you want to assign a grading to something, so you can grade it in ABCD also, or you can also say 1, 2, 3, 4. But that number doesn't carry any value. It's just a nomenclature. It's just a way of naming something. That number, you cannot do mathematical calculations on that number. That's ordinal numbers. Cardinal numbers are numbers where you can actually do mathematical calculations. So you can say 2 plus 2 equal to 4, right? But if some appliance has an energy rating of 3.2, that's more of an ordinal number. You can't add it, you can't multiply it, you can't do something with it, right? Or if you're, say, asking people to fill out a survey, and you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life? And they put a 7 or an 8 over there. You can't say that, okay, I will multiply everything by 2 and then you will be 14 on a happiness scale. You can't do that, right? So ordinal numbers are just sort of like, they're used just for descriptive purposes. They're just used like an alternative to using a name or using letters or something like that. But they don't carry any numerical value. That's what ordinal numbers are. So even though in all these SDO toolkit and in all these other toolkits, and some of these we may be giving them a number to different things, they are not numbers in that sense. They're not numbers in a quantitative sense. They are numbers in a qualitative sense. But like, if you may be giving like a scorecard, or you may be assigning, like we were doing those, what was that diagram now? One of those diagrams, all this polarity diagram and the other diagram, we are putting it on X and Y axis. That's why I was careful when I said that, it's not an actual scale. There is no number attached to it on 0 or -1 or +1. It's not like that. It's just a grading. It's just a scale. So even though we are trying to move a little bit more towards quantification of, the sustainability, feasibility, blah, 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 it is still not a number. In LCA, you can't get away from numbers. And that is where we sort of get stuck. That in LCA, you do need the number. You need to put down exact numbers for emissions, for consumption, for, for what happens to the end of cycle of it. That's the other problem with an LCA and S.PSS, that it's very difficult to define what is end of life. So, for example, when I took the the case for a coffee mug, what I said was that once the coffee mug is broken, that is end of life for the coffee mug, and that's it. Like when the product cannot be used in the way it was designed to be used anymore, that's end of life. Now, after that, you may decide to do whatever you like with it. You may continue to keep drinking from it, or you may refashion it as a flower vase or whatever. That's up to you. But end of life is clearly defined, that is when it stops its life cycle, basically. It's the end of life for that product. In S.PSS, you can't do that. Now think of a laundromat, for example, and a laundromat as an S.PSS. There is no clear definition of what is end of life. You can't define it because the S.PSS is first of all designed so that there is no such thing as like a complete breakdown or a complete end of life thing. S.PSS is designed so that you elongate the life to the extent that you keep it in a circular way, like that carpet repair thing. Say you're leasing out carpets to your consumers, and you're offering maintenance and services per year, right? And you're charging them some premium, some subscription for the leasing plus the maintenance and repair part. So now then there will never be an end of life because say, like, you remember that modular carpet example, right? So the carpet is modular. Every time some particular rectangle or some patch of the carpet is damaged, the carpet company comes in and they repair the carpet, that part of the carpet, right? And they go back. So on and so forth. Every year you keep getting some part of the carpet repaired or replaced, and it keeps continuing. So there's if you keep doing this, at the end of the day, there will be no such thing as end of life, because the carpet can live on infinitely if you keep changing one part like that. So that is the other big challenge with doing an LCA, that end of life doesn't really carry any meaning in S.PSS, because many products and services are not clearly defined in that way. They are very much designed to be sort of infinitely living kind of a thing. It will not be infinitely living, but it's not easy to define an end of life from calculation purposes. So say suppose that carpet service, you use it for 15, 20 years, right? It's not infinite, but I don't have any way to calculate it for 20 years. And I don't even know whether it is 20 years or not. For me, I may be a more aggressive user, so it's 20 years. For another person who's very, sparingly used carpet, it may be 30 years, 35 years. So what I'm trying to say is that end point is open-ended. There is no clearly defined end point. So PSA is, LCA is generally a difficult ask because of this other problem with it. Now, other things, of course, we're talking in general terms here, but in certain types of S.PSS, if you are designing it in a way that you want to keep that life cycle analysis part included, during your design process, then you could possibly design it in a way that you are able to define the functional unit in the beginning, you're able to define the end of life in the beginning itself. And you can do the LCA and you can define your product service system based on, whatever is your LCA analysis. But it's generally a difficult ask, and it's possible only like very simple kind of PSS, not like even in that laundromat example, it not be easy to do an LCA. So I think the other part was that other, sufficiency economy, which she discussed, SEP. So I'm not discussing that because I think that is fairly clear in the lecture itself. So if you have any questions or something, or if you want to read it further, I would recommend you read it in that book. So were you guys able to get that book which she has suggested in the course?
No, both the books I tried, I could not get either of them.
Which both means which one? Which is the other one?
It's the both same, I guess, from Lens. I tried the international website and the Indian website. I could not open either of the websites also.
Okay, so I'll upload the book in that folder for week 9. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. There is. Just give me- So this book is kind of useful. It gives a decent explanation of most of the things. The unit 1 is mainly the one where you have to look. The second part 2 is kind of not that helpful. So 1 minute, let me just upload now, otherwise I'll forget. So look in week 9. I'm uploading the book in week 9. Okay.
Yes.
Book is actually free only, but I think it's not that
Website
easily
is down.
available. That website is, I think, not maintained because some of the content is there, some of it is not there. I don't know what is wrong really. Okay, so I have uploaded the book there. Anything else?
In the next class, can we talk about STO toolkit? It's not how we do it, but why, or just a revision of STO toolkit.
So I discussed it in the previous class actually. So
Oh.
I would suggest you first go and check the previous class because I spent quite a fair bit of time on the SDO toolkit in the previous class. So first watch that video.
Yes,
If you still have any questions, then we can discuss it in the next class.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then I'll end the class here if there are no further questions. And week 9 assignments I will discuss in the next week. And if there's any other question, please let me know. Right. So just a reminder, the week 9 is 1 minute. On which day? It's on 30th, right? So there is a chance I may not be able to log in on time on in the next week. I'm just letting you know in advance. In case that happens, or if because I might be a little on the move or something, so I may not be able to log in properly or something. It's not necessary that it will be like that, but it might be. So if it is like that, I will still record the video and I'll upload it for you guys to refer to.
Okay.
Yeah. If there is any confusion, we can discuss it in the next class after that. Because there may be some connectivity issues, so I may not be able to record it properly at that exact time. So I little bit before, a little bit after, I'm just going to do the recording and I'll upload it. Okay. All right. So
in the
yeah.
forum, I had asked a question that SCE, we are able to do competitor analysis. I did not get a reply.
Sorry, what?
There is this question: socio-economic ecosystem analysis helps in, and in that one of the option is that it helps in and identifying the competitor space. It is
Okay.
week 7.
Okay. So see, the thing is, for these questions which are about quizzes and all, you have to ask the content team. I don't really. Yeah, I don't really have any say in this matter, and it's not that I will have any special audience or
Because
something.
I remember in all the examples we are talking that when we have multi stakeholders, the whole advantage is that we get to analyze the competitions and we get to openly talk about it.
Yeah, so I don't remember week 7 right now.
Yes,
Firstly.
that's fine. I have asked in the forum actually.
Yeah, so I will just wait for them to reply. I think they should reply. They generally do reply. So let them reply. Yes. Otherwise, we'll discuss it later.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye.